Good day, emerging mothers. Good day, good day, good day. Listen, I am so excited you're here. I'm uncertain where all of you are located. I know that some of you are, of course, located domestic, or better yet, here domestically, and then some are global. But listen, it is cold here in Texas. It may be cold in your state as well, but it is cold here in Houston, Texas. So we are all bundled up. Some cold front came in, and so we are just, I jingled my family up in the Midwest, and so they mentioned that they were just colder as well. And so, oh my goodness, it is cold, cold, cold. And I'm uncertain about you. And so even let me know, is it cold in your state as well? Because something has come through here. I'm uncertain what it is, but it is chilly here in the state of Texas, and specifically here in Houston. But listen, this is what I want to talk to you about today, and we will not be long. Now, I've been on both sides of the spectrum, if you will. I have teens who are living here in the home, and then I have one teen who has transitioned out of the home and who is living on her own. And what I want to do today is I want to talk about those things that we can do while our teen is living in the home, so that we're teaching them. So guess what? When they have transitioned out of the home, then guess what? There's this positive, there's this unified relationship. Now, in our private Facebook group, of course, there are postings, recent ones, talking about empty nesting and all of that. Guess what? We want our years to be positive. We want our interactions, and we want our connections with our teens to be unified. And so I want to talk to you about some tips that can take place to make sure that we're effectively encouraging our teens. Because guess what? Sometimes our teens can have these feelings of entitlement. And sometimes they can have these feelings of being ungrateful. You know what? Maybe not your teens, but some teens I know may display some feelings of ungratefulness, and also these feelings of entitlement. And so I want to talk about that with you today and share some tips on what can be done right now prior to their transition out of the home, just so that there's this connection between you and your teen, again, after they've transitioned out of the home. So first and foremost, I want to encourage you more and more to allow your teen to do things for themselves. And when I suggest them doing things for themselves, because of course, and let me share some of the thinking that some of us mothers have. We say to ourselves that we want to be able to really provide for our teens, because guess what? When we were growing up, we may not have had. And so what we do is we overcompensate when we're parenting our teens. And so we want to make sure that they have not only what they need, but also what they want. And so when we provide for them all of these things of what they want, then sometimes, and not you mothers, but I'm just going to say other mothers I know, sometimes when they provide for their teens, they overcompensate. And those actions have a tendency to be slightly misguided, whereas then we give, and then the sense of entitlement creeps into that giving mode or that giving relationship, whereas our teen begins to think that, there's this deserving spirit that creeps in. And so what I'm sharing is, and this tip that I'm sharing is to, as time progresses, let's allow our teens to begin to do for themselves. So if they want a particular grade in a class at school, as opposed to us quickly picking up the phone or us, doing their homework for them, I've been in a number of conversations. Let's allow them to earn that grade. How about that? Let's teach them And even when my daughters were in school, guess what? I was in school myself. So what my focus was modeling it for them. What working hard looked like so that I could earn the grade while I was in school. What working really looked like so I can model it for them so they can earn the grades that they have in school. Or if they want to earn a position on a team, what working hard look like so they can earn that position on the team. So it could mean, mothers, maybe a trainer is needed. My ninth grader, she has a shooting coach. So we're there in the gym at 7 a.m. in the morning. And so that she can put in the hard work so that she can earn the position on the team. Or, Sunday's a ball handling coach, so that she can spend hours with this ball handling coach so she can make that ball a part of her hand, and she can really demonstrate the discipline needed in order to earn that position on the team. And so tip number one, let's allow them to earn what it is that they want. And then also, complete and pursue the tasks needed in order to make sure that happen. Because guess what? My teens, your teens are talented, and they can do what it takes in order to earn that spot on the team or earn the grade in the class. And I know that for a fact because guess what? Scripture shares it. It talks about, in Psalm 139:14, how our teens are creatively and wonderfully designed. It talks a little bit also about what Christ has done because we are, and our teens are deeply loved and profoundly valued. And so in 1 Corinthians 12, it talks again about, just how there's a special purpose for our teens. And so it's scriptural. So I know that he loves them even more than we love them. I tell you. So I know that can happen. So let's do that. Number one, let's allow them and encourage them and usher them and model for them how they can begin to do things for themselves. This really will make the relationship better. So when they transition out of the home, guess what? There's a bond there as opposed to or versus there being that relationship of entitlement. Okay, so then also let's tip number two, let's teach them how to be grateful. We can really teach it to them. We can teach them the difference between, so that they can know actually what a gift is. Sometimes our teens, do they always know when we do things for them that it's like a gift? Because sometimes they think that, maybe something, they really need to know the difference between what's owed to them, what's earned, and then what's a gift. Because what's owed to them, of course, we as parents, we as mothers, we need to provide for them what they need. We need to make sure that, of course, we're feeding them. We need to make sure that we're clothing them. All of those things that they need. We need to make sure that that's in place. Of course, we've placed a roof over their head and 4 walls so they can remain safe from the outside elements. All of those things, it's what they need. Of course, and then also, we just talked about what's earned. Okay, when they work towards something and they receive that grade, then that's earned. But you know what? Things outside of that, those wants and all of that, that's a gift to them. And so I'm hoping that your teens are aware of the gifts that we give them. A lot of times, the Christmas gifts and all of that, those things are above and beyond, of course, what they actually need. And if they're able to see those things as a gift, then guess what? I know that they will, over time, become more and more grateful. Now listen, this is something that I had to check myself on, and I'm being totally transparent. At one point, I was saying, oh my goodness, I want to purchase another home. And so I would, mention that from time to time. And you know what? That's okay. But, there's a way to mention that so that it doesn't even seem as though I'm ungrateful. And so if I can even remain and demonstrate contentment in my verbiage, then I'm modeling, what it means to be grateful for what I already have. And then I can pray and I can, plan for another home. But I want to even make sure that my when I'm communicating with diplomacy regarding what it is, a goal that I have, which is the purchase of another home. Because of course, and I do want another home, and I want to use it for business purposes. So years down the line, once the home is modeled and everything, then of course, emerging mothers will be flying here into Texas, and we'll have our retreats, and we'll talk about different strategies, and we'll participate in exercises so that emerging mothers, you all, are able to make sure that, again, strategies and I want to offer courses and classes on how we can make sure that unified bond exists between you and your team, number one, and then those things that can be done, as the years continue throughout your journey with your teams, to just make sure that, it's tightened and it's solidified. So those are the things that I want to do, and that's why I want to purchase the home. But nonetheless, I want to make sure that between now and then, my communicative ways demonstrate that I am content with what I have, but I do want to model, what it means to plan for a goal. So it's almost like a double-edged sword in a sense, making sure that, of course, we're teaching our teens to be grateful, and then of course we're grateful as well. And you know what? It's so interesting because when we are, and so of course to wrap that thought up full circle, we want to make sure that we're fostering gratefulness, of course, within ourselves, so we can demonstrate that to our teens, so that it doesn't seem as though when we're talking that, of course, we're complaining or things along those lines. So just a side note, now that I've given those two tips and how we can go about making sure that we're modeling what needs to be modeled for our teens, I do want to just mention just a side note, because our teens, and drop down in the chat and just what it is that you see between you and your teen, whereas if there's any type of way that you're seeing something within them that you'd like some tips on while we're here, of course, on throughout this live. And thank you so much, Michelle, for mentioning that. Oh my goodness, you all are expecting snow in Brooklyn. Oh my goodness gracious. And that's, on the East Coast. And so, I'm just wishing you all well and hoping that you all remain safe, my goodness, in the midst of that snow that's about to come down. And I hope it is not a lot of inches, that's for sure. So thank you so much for sharing that. Oh my goodness. So, but I want to share just a couple of side notes here. Our teens, when they're living in our home, of course, and they're consuming, of course, our time and our money and our food and our energy and our resources and all of that, as we, as they're living with us prior to them transitioning out of the home, I want to make sure that before they leave, or even after they have left, that within them is some sense of gratefulness. I tell you, maybe, their in gratefulness is shown, of course, through their words or through their deeds. And so that's why I'm sharing these tips right now. I do want to share a study with you all. A professor, and his name is Professor Fro, and he's with Hofstra University. He did a study on how we can help our teens, of course, increase gratefulness. And this study was done, and it included high school juniors and high school seniors. The high school juniors and seniors, they included in their daily walk just journaling all of those things that they're grateful about. And as time progressed, it seemed like these teens just grew grateful, more and more grateful as time progressed. And so when the teens discontinued after a certain portion of time, or after a certain period of time, it seemed like their gratefulness decreased. And so what I want to encourage you mothers to do, maybe your teens have a morning routine. And part of their morning routine, and I know for my daughters, the part of their morning routine is up, and then they start moving their body, and they do some exercise. My oldest daughter, she goes to the gym that's downstairs in her complex. My middle teen, she gets up and she's, downstairs, and she goes to the gym, actually comes back home, and she, of course, in her morning routine is some meditation, and then also of course she's doing a Bible study, and there's some writing that's going on. And so I want to encourage you to encourage your teen to do some journaling and just jotting down what they're grateful about. And so I know that over time, then that gratefulness will increase inside of them, because as this study concluded and those teens were no longer writing down what they were grateful about, then their gratefulness decreased. I mean, they started off slightly ungrateful, and then they became more and more grateful because they were journaling and writing down and remaining cognizant of those things that were going on in their lives that they appreciated. And then once that journaling decreased, then that ungratefulness returned. And so let me share this with you. I know for a fact that as teens maneuver through life and they're looking forward to autonomy and independence, then they may sense a feeling of demoralization when they realize that they're still dependent on us. Now, can you imagine, and this may have even happened to you when you were teens, but do we think about it? I'm thinking that we don't. But as your teen, they're in the home and they're moving towards independence, but then they have to keep coming to us and asking us for things, and they have to keep coming to us, and then the relationship that we have with them, it continues to remind them that they are dependent on us. So it's almost like they're between a rock and a hard place. One sense, they're trying to become independent, but they're still dependent on us. And so therefore, it's making their independence an illusion, if you will. And this illusion creates this necessary psychological balance that ushers them into this lack of gratitude. Because they think that they want to be in control of their lives, but are they really in control of their lives when they have to depend on us? So I just want to paint a picture of what it is that this teen may be going through that's causing them this feeling of ungratefulness. They're striving towards independence. And then there's the realization that they're still dependent on us. And it's like they're caught between this rock and a hard place. And then this lack of gratefulness seeps in, because here it is, they're not where they want to be. And a portion of them is still where they used to be. And so it's like, so I want us to, this is what allows us as mothers to show them some grace. Because they're in this. Drop in the chat if you're understanding what I'm trying to help you picture in reference to where these teens are. And then we think about, are their minds fully developed? And the answer is not quite yet. And so I want us mothers to just demonstrate and show some grace, because our teens are trying their absolute best as they are, of course, maneuvering through these relationships, not only with us, but with other people that, of course, they are, attempting to bond with and attempting to socialize with. So over time, I know that what we will do is we will continue to instill our wise morals that will exist between us and our teens, also our values and our ethics. And I'm trusting and believing that that will stay with them all the days of their life, what we have instilled in them as they grow closer and closer towards independence, or what I've mentioned in the past is interdependence, because of course we want to be a part of their lives. We want to continue to help where we're needed. We'll be needed in a unique and a different kind of way, but by the same token, of course, we'll be needed. So we'll continue to do that. And guess what? I do want to let you know this, that at times, as we're instilling our wise morals and our values and our ethics in our teens, sometimes it may look as though they may lock up what we're teaching them in maybe a cold storage, or maybe they may lock it up in a cemented vault. Yet we know it's there, and I trust that it will reappear, because they'll remember what we've told them as they face certain situations and circumstances in life. But guess what, mothers? Let's continue to, and I'm going to let you all go in just a minute, let's continue to model what gratefulness looks like, so that again, they're thankful teens growing into adults. So, you know, if we see a store clerk, or if we see, you know, maybe the gentlemen who come from waste management, who come and toss our trash in the back of their trucks, or janitors that we may see, or someone cleaning the floor or the restroom at a store, or whatever, you know, let's say thank you, or let's maybe share a kind word with them, so that our teens will know it's okay to continue to be kind to those people, you know, in public, who may have positions and may have roles at establishments that, you know, where people may not necessarily appreciate them as much. Let's model that gratefulness so that we see it in our teens, of course, to later on as time progresses. Okay, I see some comments in the chat, and listen, let's toss some information in the chat, and so I will try my best to respond. I see that there's a comment that says, of course, let me see, my teenage son turned 18. We took so much time to interview a vet professional, let me see, therapist who would also be a good fit for our son. And now that he began the therapy, he's 18 because, okay. Well, I'm seeing it's talking about, and our son says he's not comfortable. Okay, and you know what? I see a comment in the chat, and I'm going to make sure that I respond to that. Because there's talk about the son seeing a therapist, and I'm going to make sure that I respond in that chat, so that gets a response and a comment from me, because I want to make sure that, of course, while that teen is in the house, some principles and values and morals, which I'm sure they are being demonstrated, just so that after the teen has transitioned out, if they have yet to do so already, then of course there's been some actions exhibited prior to the teen's prior to the teen's transition, if they has yet to leave already. So, all right, thank you so much. I appreciate and love you all, and I'm going to make sure that I respond, of course, to that comment that's in the chat, so that we can, of course, make sure that we have a relationship with our teens after that transition has taken place. Love you all. I appreciate you. Please put more comments in the chat so that I can respond to all of them. And I will see you all next Thursday for our live. Again, love you much. Take care, and we'll be in touch. See ya. Bye.